I propose, and I'm certainly not the only one. There's other people out there who also use language because that's it. I see religion as a language and language as a metaphor. Some other scholars do it as well, but it's not, I wouldn't say it's dominant among academics to use that analogy. But it has stopped being an analogy for me. I've continued to think about it and really, really see it that way. So for me, religion is a language, not a language with words and grammar, but a language with stories, with ideas as well, but with rituals, with ways of life in which you express symbolically, so symbols as well. All those things, we normally associate them with religion, so that's not a problem. But it's a language, so it tries to express certain thing. What does it try to express in that language, which is not words? Well, it tries to express those things that we can't really put in words. And so it's an existential, spiritual, and psychological language to express the stuff that matters to us. Those things that we think are really the essence of life, the depth, why some things are more important than others, and why some things are really, really important. Again, that's why we use words like sacred and holy and so on. Those come in because we're trying to find words in that case. But if we don't have the words, then we make a ritual out of it. Oh, somebody dies. Okay, so we're confronted with that enormous split between life and death. Is it a real split or not? And we can philosophize about it all we want. Does it really stop? Does it not? But in the end, we're stuck with a bunch of emotions when a loved one dies and we need to do something with it. And we might have some ideas about it, but we need to express it. So we'll create a ritual to do something and to show what we kind of have within ourselves, but for which those words and those philosophies eventually are not enough. And so that for me is religion. It's languages that simply grow all through history because some people add some other symbols and those people add some rituals and then some rituals are thrown out and all you want, but it's languages to express the stuff that matters to us very, very deeply. And why is it important to look at it that way? Because in a certain sense, that sounds like what we're used to thinking of when we think of religion, rituals, symbols, and so on. But I think the importance is if you look at it from the perspective of language, then religion in its variety and its fuzziness becomes way more understandable. Just like in language you have, for example, dialects. You've got dialects in religion as well, dialects between quotes, in the sense that there's so many varieties and sometimes certain dialects. I mean, in Belgium, for example, probably someone from America doesn't know what Flemish really entails. It sounds like Dutch, and we speak a bit like the Dutch. It's the same language basically, but somebody from the west of Flanders, if he goes to Amsterdam, and he speaks his dialect, the people from Amsterdam probably won't understand him. But it's about, 150, 200 kilometers, something like that. That's nothing. But the two won't understand each other. And that's a good example for me. That's a dialect in a language. And you've got the same thing in religion. A Zen Buddhist in a Thai Theravada temple won't know what to do. Both are Buddhist nonetheless. It becomes way more understandable. It also becomes understandable how it's possible that religions mix all the time and aren't as delineated as we always think. Why certain rituals from one religion all of a sudden pop up in another. Why ideas are mixed and mingled and so on all through history. Because that's what languages do. People need more ways of expressing themselves. And so loan words is something that we know in languages. One language uses a word from another language and give it enough time and people forget that it came from that other language. It just becomes part and parcel of that language. Or also in the life of certain people who simply learn more languages. If nothing else, people who have bilingual parents. One parent speaks one language, the other speaks the other. They both speak it to the kid. The kid has both. Well, by now you've got pretty, in the globalized society that we all live in, we've got plenty of people who have bilingual in a religious sense, parents as well, and they get brought up with aspects and variations of both religions that their parents belong to. And so they themselves are, in my view, bilingual. Me, myself, am someone like that, or I see myself like that. My mother tongue might be Christianity, but I'm pretty bilingual when it comes to Islam because I've lived there, because I've so deeply researched it and so on. And because it's a language, it's also not, perhaps is also important for me when it comes to people who are spiritual. And I don't mind what people call cafeteria religion, where you pick and choose a bit from the platter. And okay, that's a cool part of Buddhism. Let's meditate, and I'll take some Shiva statue and put it in my chamber somewhere, and I like the view of it. That's perfectly fine. I really don't have a problem with that. But to really get what traditions are about, you have to study them just like a language. You won't be able to study a religion or a language. Go to Italy, and if you think that in a week, by walking around in Rome, you'll also speak Italian, no, nobody believes so. But the strange thing is that we think it about religion. Oh, I went to India, I've been there a month, and now I can say what Hinduism is about. And why do we have the feeling that we can say what Hinduism is about? Because we think that religion can be reduced to a certain set of convictions, to a couple of things that Hindus do. And when you've seen those, then you can tell all about it. And that clearly is not the case. If you really want to get into Hinduism, you'll have to study just as long as you would if you wanted to study Italian and be fluent in speaking it. Some couple of loan words, of course, that's not a problem. But really getting it, that's a different ballpark altogether. But it's possible. And that's the other aspect of it. Is it possible to be multilingual in a religious sense? Obviously. Why not? History is full of such people. And yeah, like I said, I do consider myself to be one of them.